Hi everyone, my name is James Feeney. Welcome to or back to my channel. It is now November, which means I have a month's worth of decks, books, and experiences to talk about in terms of October. So without further ado, I will jump into that. I always start with the decks that were prominent features in my month. Then I followed up with the books. That's sort of a mini review section on those books for anybody who might be interested. And the latter portion of the video is usually miscellaneous items and experiences from the month. So if you care to skip around, that's the order I go in. I do actually have a few new decks to share. Usually to me that is the most boring portion because I am a creature of habit who uses the same decks over and over again for myself and clients, and I like what I like, and that's just that, but I do have some new ones, so we'll get into that. One that I recently made a video on was an Etsy purchase, and it is the Tarot de Marseille Revised. It's a majors only deck, and although it's not necessarily Marseille-like in its imagery, it's not a redrawing of the Marseille, it's more of an inspired deck, a creative interpretation, if you will. I found it to be really fun. I like how it sort of has this bold, modern, sleek, almost minimal line work and the way that the colors are portrayed styles. So I have been getting a lot of use out of it in daily draws, smaller readings that I want to be a little bit more impactful in a shorter span of time or with fewer amounts of cards. I've enjoyed getting into doing readings with majors only decks. I do think it takes some adjustment because, of course, I think a lot of us as tarot readers are conditioned to see a major and it's more of a big light bulb or it draws our eye and we want to pay it more importance and time in a reading compared to a minor arcana card or a court card. So having these, for example, be all of what a reading is composed of, my mind almost wants to think that every portion of the reading has a greater significance than another, whereas, you know, with a majors only reading, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, it's not always the case either in a normal tarot reading, but I do think we perk up when we see a major arcana card and we are using an entire 78 card tarot deck. So I have been enjoying this one quite a bit and keeping it on me in my to-go bag. It's nice because it is small and fewer cards, so I can toss it in and it's not bulky in any way. Now, two new decks that came into my collection, into my life this month are decks that I backed on Kickstarter. I'm not going to share too much on them now. I think it might be fun to make a video just to primarily show off or really kind of explain my thoughts and feelings on these decks. And they are the Dream Vision Tarot, I believe, yes, the Dream Vision Tarot. Looks like this in one of those magnetic boxes. It's funny because the two decks that both came in that are Kickstarter decks, I backed, I want to say maybe on the same day many months ago, and they didn't have the same estimated finish date, but they happened to arrive one day apart from each other, and it happened like that. And it's a really pretty deck. Of course, it's 78 cards. This is what the backs look like, and I'm holding it upside down. It's a very colorful, vibrant deck. I like decks like this where the line work is really clean, everything is clear and crisp to be seen. It's not an overabundance of details. I think just this specific art style, which kind of has a more almost graphic design-like element to it, is sometimes very appealing, at least in the way that this one was done. It almost has something about it to me that reminds me of like mid-century modern type stylings in terms of like decor, interior, lines and structures. I'm no art student. I don't have a history or background in any of that, so I could be completely off in what I'm saying. But I think this is a really fun style. There's something almost modern about it, but at the same time not. And although it utilizes a lot of different colors, it doesn't seem gaudy or over the top, and sometimes I feel that way about very colorful decks. And it just kind of has this neutral tone. And of course, there's these more energetic-like figures who are not human looking, which appeals to me quite a bit. I don't like very realistic looking humans in my decks, or at least that tends to be my preference. So that worked out really well. I've already been using it for daily draws. I have used it with a client already. It just is one that I'm getting on with really well, really quickly. So more to come on that one. I think I'm just going to make a video talking about both this and the other Kickstarter deck, going into more detail with what to expect of them if you are interested. So stay tuned for that. I'll probably upload it a few days from now or right after this video. It'll be the next one. So if you're curious about it in more detail. And I know that the Dream Vision Tarot is up for pre-order now. I'm not sure about this one, which I'm about to talk to. I would have to go back and do some research, but I know you can pre-order the Dream Vision Tarot. So this is the Orphic Tarot, another Kickstarter. I had followed the creator on Instagram, and I believe they've made another deck before this, and this one specifically is based on the Orphic Mysteries, I believe is what they are, essentially. And again, I could be wrong. I'm not an expert on this. I kind of am just trying to remember what I heard and saw in the Kickstarter sort of story, background, updates. It's a little, Greek myths, the Orphic myths. So we have gods, goddesses, and a lot of the cards are depicting scenes from these sort of iconic stories that then apply to any specific tarot card. So it's a 78 card deck. It has a very similar box to the Dream Visions, that sort of magnetic hard box closure. This one came with a guidebook. The Dream Vision Tarot has an online guidebook, which is nice as well. I know with this one, I have this extra card because I think there was a double of a card in here, and then this card was left out. So what the creator did was order these cards and include one with each deck, and we are able to put it in and then take out the duplicate card that is there, and this card which wasn't present in the deck. So I haven't gone through and done that yet. As you can tell, this one is a little bit less sifted through. This one's still in order. I haven't really used it much at all. I guess a little spoiler or disclaimer in that way. Oh, I love the edging too. It's like black, but with a little bit of like a sort of iridescence or rainbow sort of shift with the light, or pearlescent, however you would call that. These are the backs. And this one I'm already having a little bit of difficulty with. I love the artwork. I love the concept. Generally, I don't go for thematic decks in terms of like following a story or following a mythology or a culture or a religion. Tends not to be my thing as much. And I guess in some regards, this reminds me a little bit just in the theme, not as much in art style and execution, but of the Mythic Tarot, one that I know many people love. And I saw this artwork on Instagram. I actually did talk to the creator on Instagram a little bit. They are an extremely nice human being. Cannot speak highly enough of them. But I tend to find that when I'm laying out these cards, I have trouble. They kind of just have a sort of sameness to me, specifically when I look at them. So I'm not sure how I'm going to get on with this one. And I have trouble identifying which card is which. The little indicators for the suit and number are hard for me to find, and there's a lot going on in any of these cards. There's a great amount of detail, and the limited color palette, along with the great amount of detail and the renderings of these images. For me personally, it becomes a little bit of a mishmash in my head. So I'm still not sure how I'm going to get on with this, and I'm still working through all of that. Of course, I'll speak more about this in the video, along with more details about this deck specifically, and if it's available, which I kind of am forgetting now if it's one that is up for pre-order or available to the public at this point. But really great deck, really great quality. I am enjoying it so far, although it's kind of more of a slow relationship than, say, the Dream Vision Tarot, but I thought I would share it nonetheless, although I haven't really gotten the chance to use it very much. So there's that. Those are the primary decks that are kind of like new to me that I'm using. The only other ones, I guess, that are worth mentioning are, of course, a Thoth deck, just my greenie, which was on hand, always around here for my readings, for client readings, tried and true old friend, if you will. So there's that one, and then, as usual, Marseille deck. I tend to use either a Thoth deck or a Marseille deck, and in recent months, the Marseille has been winning out in terms of client readings, so yeah, just the Hodorowski, and I like this one. It's simple, it's easy, and of course, this is a more mass market deck, so I don't feel like I need to be careful with it, and I can kind of toss it around and use it with clients. And the line work is clean. I do tend to like some of the more old school style Marseille decks that have more either like blurry imagery or just kind of has that more antique look, but I do find that those are harder in client readings because the images are not as crisp and people are trying to see what's going on a card. So I do appreciate this one for that purpose or that reason. That about takes us through the decks. Now we'll get over to the books. I will admit that I've kind of been a little bit lax on my reading, which I'm not so happy about. I guess in general, I've been having having some struggles. As you'll notice, my upload schedule is delayed, it's off, there's not a great degree of consistency there. Same with Instagram. I think just after being sick in September going into October, having, COVID, and then I got sick again, and just a lot of things going on, I've felt very off, and there's also been a lot of things that I've been busy with, and my mind is kind of just going in a lot of different directions, and it's hard to have some focus. And of course, well, I'll get into more of that type stuff at the end. Let's talk about the books. So I know I brought this up in my last favorites video, but it's a 3-in-1. So in the last favorites or wrap-up sort of video, I had read the first of 3 books included in this volume, which contains all 3 of the books in the Lilith's Brood series, and those are Dawn, Adult Rights, and Imago, I believe, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. So I had read Dawn, and in the month of October, I finished and read Adulthood Rights and Imago. You can buy all of these novels separately, but I think that this was a really great deal for me, and so yeah, I read the last 2. For anybody who isn't familiar, Octavia Butler is a wonderful author, one of my favorites. Especially, it seems to me that a lot of the books that I've found of hers are science fiction, and that seems to be a genre that she's known for. I read a book or a series of 4 of her novels a couple months back, and spoke very highly of them, used them in a bunch of exercises. And this series, I loved just as much. One of my favorites. I think she's brilliant. This one is about a sort of post-apocalyptic human society, I guess, when there are aliens present. Aliens, save the humans. A lot of this is realistic in the way that humans tend to act and the trends and direction that society may be going, or things that society tends to trend toward. I almost think that she was a little bit of a psychic herself or something, just because of the fact that a lot of her writings are from the 80s and they are set in at future times, and the way that things play themselves out mirrors society now, which is concerning in a lot of ways, but also just very interesting to see. And I like that she does not shy away from things like talking about race, gender, trying to think of other things. There's definitely big points in terms of feminism, and I'm trying to think of other things, class structures and wealth and disparities in, discrimination and prejudices in society, religious belief systems, all sorts of things. And yes, it doesn't get better than this. And so I liked that each of the individual novels within this volume, they followed a sort of chronology. They went in chronological order and take place over many series of years. There seems to be a gap in between each of them, and then we're following a new character, essentially, as our main character for each one, but they're all connected. I will say that they're all related, genetically speaking, by blood, and that we do get reference to our former characters. The protagonist from the first novel in this volume is present in the next or the following 2, and it's just really cool to see how that all plays out and the direction society goes. And if you're into aliens, if you're into science fiction, if you are into somebody who can just create such a world and get you really invested in characters, this was quite the roller coaster. I felt the full spectrum of emotions while reading this in the best way possible, and I couldn't put it down. So highly, highly recommend. And if you're looking to get a sort of better deal for getting, 3 novels for essentially what was the price of 1 or close to it, I would definitely recommend picking it up in this way, the Lilith's Brood sort of volume. What else do we have? Another one that I didn't finish that I mentioned that I still hadn't finished in the last one, so I'm a little bit ashamed of this one. This is Relating: An Astrological Guide to Living with Others on a Small Planet by Liz Green. And I'm just taking my time with this. It's slow. It's a slow burn, and my mind has been scattered, as I've said. I've had trouble focusing, and so when it's a little bit more, when there are these nonfiction, more instructional, heady texts to read, I've just been struggling. So I'm giving myself time. I'm trying to be as patient as I can with myself. I am nearing the end, but it's slow going. As you can see, it's definitely been in my bag quite a bit, although I'll read like a couple of pages and then just feel the need that I need to like put it down. But it's in my bag. It's going to be finished likely within the month of November. So stay tuned. I'm still enjoying it. I guess my thoughts are pretty much the same as what they were in my former favorites video. There's then another book that I haven't finished, but I'm in the middle of, or am I actually at the middle? Okay, I'll be honest, I'm a third of the way through, and I intended to finish it this month, but as I said, just things are all over the place for me. So we have Alice Hoffman's Magic Lessons. It's a prequel to Practical Magic. It's a novel. Really pretty cover. For those of you who are familiar with Practical Magic, one of my favorite books and movies of all time, this is by the same author, and it takes place, if you read or know of Practical Magic, their sort of original ancestor in the United States from like the 1600s, who they always reference as the sort of primary first like witch in their line that they know of, Maria Owens. This is a book all about her, following her life. So really, really cool. I love Practical Magic. There's also the Rules of Magic, which takes place primarily in New York in the mid 20th century, which follows the great aunts of the two protagonists in Practical Magic that end up raising the protagonist of Practical Magic. So you have a lot going on here. I guess Practical Magic was released first. A couple years back, we got the Rules of Magic, and now we have this. So they're almost like following the line of women or the line of witches backwards. It's really nice to get to know a lot more about the sort of origins of the Owens line, of the Owens witches, and it's a feel-good book in some ways, I would say. There are some darker elements. I like that the author, in a more historical context, tries to be more realistic, especially given that, this is a time when a lot of European countries are colonizing the US, and it's very easy to kind of take the view that we would kind of push, or the agenda that we would push a few years prior, where, the whole, Christopher Columbus, happy, fun-go-lucky type thing, and that's not obviously the case. It's an ugly past, and I think that the author does handle it pretty well in trying to remain realistic. So kudos and props to Alice Hoffman for that. But it's just really cool to see what a witch may have been like. Of course, this is more fantastical, just as Practical Magic and the Rules of Magic are, in that, the magic has more of this outward physical manifestation of things happening that are, a little bit different from actual reality. But nonetheless, this is just it's very nostalgic for me. And I was just rewatching Practical Magic you have to rewatch it in October. If you like that movie, that's the time to do it. But I was rewatching the movie and reading this and kind of sipping a nice little tea, and it was so fitting. So highly, highly recommend this so far. I'll have more to say on it as I finish it. About a third of the way through, plan to finish it this month. And then I guess that kind of takes us through all the books that I read. As far as miscellaneous things, I don't really have any like tools or items to speak about specifically. One that I always end up bringing up in recent months is my planner that I talk about. I got on Honeycomb. It has my birth chart. I use it to schedule and plan things, but I also use it as a study tool, an astrological reference for myself, and just like a learning study aid. So it's been in my bag. I do continue to use it. I love it. Cannot recommend it highly enough. If anybody out there is interested and likes astrology and wants a way to organize their day, definitely worth the investment in my opinion. So that takes us through most of that. I guess I'll just touch upon a few experiences. Like I said, I've been a bit scattered. My upload schedule's off, as you may know. I've noticed it a lot more, but who knows what other people, if they notice my absence or my difference in upload and all that. And I have some video ideas. I do want to make a video just kind of like I guess, a casual video on those 2 Kickstarter decks so that I can, you know, talk about them more. I do think they're worth sharing, and the decks and the creators are both amazing, so definitely worth talking about. I have some other video ideas in the works. I think just given where my mind is at, it's harder for me to make the videos that I feel are more in alignment with what I want to be creating, videos that talk about ideas and concepts. Those are really my favorite types of videos to make, but they're also the ones that take a lot of mental focus, some prior planning, and it's always a topic that I'm passionate about and have kind of fleshed out and feel like I have something to bring together that's going to hopefully be coherent, somewhat helpful. It's going to maybe offer something new to a discussion or dialogue on a certain topic, because I don't think I'm necessarily putting things out there that are entirely new, at least in the topic, but my ideas surrounding it are going to be, you know, unique and original to me, as anybody's ideas on any topic are going to probably be somewhat unique and original to them. But those are videos that I care to make, but I have found that I'm having trouble doing that, and it is easier, at least in my opinion, for me to make videos where I just talk about, you know, it's really easy for me to pick up a deck and just tell you what I think about it in real time and show you images and those sorts of things. So if you see videos and content like that a little bit more being thrown in, that's kind of the reason. I do have one that I fully, you know, planned out notes for that I wanted to make, and it was very fitting for the Halloween season, and it just didn't end up happening in time. I also had wanted to make a sort of get ready with me for Halloween, like I did last year when I dressed up as an angel, and I sort of filmed that video getting ready, doing the makeup and the costume, and talking about Halloween and just different sorts of things, and the Wheel of the Year and spiritual subjects, and that didn't end up happening. It's been a busy month, I will say, in terms of like readings and events. Funny enough, I have gotten a few events, which I'm really grateful for. I like that I'm, you know, able to work, but it's funny that all of the events that I got booked for or whatever weren't Halloween related at all. They were all different things, but none of them were Halloween parties or events. So I just thought that was really funny. But yeah, so I'm a little bit busy in the way of work. I'm redesigning my website and actually investing in having somebody else who is good at that and does that professionally to do that for me, because my website as it was, or as it is at this exact moment, was done by me, and it's not very good, and it's not user friendly, and it's clear that somebody who doesn't really know what they were doing tried to just do their best. So I'm investing in that. So it's a lot of just it's a big transition period for me. And I would also say that I have recently been, you know, investing in and offering myself more time with other areas of interest in my life, things like fashion and just like aesthetics and style, which are all like subjects that I care about, topics and passions and interests of mine that I care about. As I've mentioned a couple of times, this channel was actually founded as a channel where I was meant to, or where I decided that I wanted to talk about fashion and show different things and have tutorials. And the couple of videos that I had up on this channel at first were those of that variety. I took a lot of them down or made them private, but that's an area of mine that I care a lot about, but I'm not going to necessarily speak about quite as much on this channel. You know, I'm not going to lift up stuff and be like, oh, this is what I got at the thrift store this month, or this is the new pair of shoes I got, or this accessory, or this new pair of sunglasses. I'm not going to do that. I guess that's not really what this channel has become, and what this section or slice of the internet that is mine is really about. I guess you'll get to see some of it just in like what I wear or in passing when I tend to bring up something very specific, but I don't want to inundate or bombard anybody who's here for a specific purpose with something that doesn't align with that purpose or general theme. So there's that. And then I guess just the direction of my life at this point is also in a state of flux, and what I'm going to decide to be doing with myself. I do still consider myself to be somebody who is in the, you know, the more formative years of life, where I'm still figuring out what I'm doing, who I want to be, things that I really want to be investing in for my long-term future in terms of, you know, career and living and all sorts of things. Just all that is entailed there. So all of that's in flux as well, and at times it can be a little bit anxiety inducing, at other times it's I kind of like to think of it as more exciting, the possibilities that are kind of available to me, and things that the roads that I can potentially walk down. But to make a long story short and to, bring this to a close, that's basically where I'm at. So I will upload this. I hope it's fun. I hope it's interesting. I hope that the decks and books that I share are helpful for anybody out there who is interested. I hope if you're in a period that is a little bit off and different for you, and perhaps some things are shifting in your life, that you can feel like you're not alone. I'd love to know where you are all at, and if this is a more common occurrence in a grand scale, or if it's more of just a personal thing for me. And yeah, just to connect and talk about those sorts of things. But do expect videos on, it's going to probably be a joint video for both of those Kickstarter decks, and I would like to get to that one I can't talk, that one video that I did make notes for, that hopefully I can kind of get my headspace right to be able to create that for this channel. But I hope you are all well. Like and subscribe if this was fun or interesting. And I guess I'll add, because I don't talk about this enough, and some of my friends and just people that I know are always like, oh, you never talk about your services. You can book readings with me. I do readings. I always have all of my information linked down below. I do Skype and Zoom readings. I do pre-recorded. I do live. So if you're interested in any of that, I guess now that it's November, it's a little bit slower than October for me. So do feel free to reach out to book a reading. I don't bite, and you could definitely email me. So there's that. But until next time, bye.